Hi, everyone. This is Reverend Rebecca Nagy, and I'd like to thank you for joining me in this second installment of my series, And Thus I Rise. Today, I'd like to talk about the experience of walking the path of the initiate towards ascension and what those steps are and what some of the teachers throughout the ages have told us about that. And so I'd like for you to, just for a minute, take a breath as we begin this journey of self-discovery or towards enlightenment. I'd like to also let you know that I do have a website, the Golden Quest Mystery School, and I invite you to join me there and you can download these lessons, these teachings, as well as explore a little bit about what the Mystery School is. I do offer classes all over the country via Zoom. So if anything here sparks your interest or you'd like to learn more, please reach out to me from the website and let me know. So first, let's go ahead and do an alignment. So if you would just take a breath and close your eyes and just visualize yourself as a point of light that is connected in a great matrix of light around the planet, also known as the flower of life. And just reach out a little bit with your heart and your mind. Get centered. Release all judgment. Release everything but a feeling of love and compassion. Just take a deep breath. A moment of silence. And so it is. So we've linked to the network of light that surrounds the planet, recognizing that we are all one. And so today, I'd like to share with you our own hero's journey, which has also been called the initiate's path. Sometimes we forget that the great life, the universal creative force, works through and with human beings. Joseph Campbell divided the hero's journey into three main moves: departure, initiation, and return. So for our purposes today, let's briefly look at these steps in the life of the Master Jesus as he expressed the Christ in the initiatory path of return. I believe that all great ones from the dawn of time came into physical manifestation in order to lay down a blueprint of the next steps of our own spiritual initiation. So this great truth that was modeled for us in the life of the Master Jesus really outpictured what the age of Aquarius was about. And now as we enter into the age of Aquarius, we are still, did I say age of Aquarius? I meant the age of Pisces. He was the avatar of the great age of Pisces. But now we're entering into the age of Aquarius. And we're still learning how to be loving on this planet of existence, to use the lessons that he taught us. The illusion of separation has been very strong, but now is creating fear and leading to conflict as we all go through the challenges of self-quarantine, or shall I say enforced quarantine, during this time of COVID-19 that we are experiencing on the planet today, April 12th, 2020. What I'd like to recommend and suggest to you is that there is, as the great physicist Max Planck said, there is no matter as such. Mind is the matrix of all matter. And so what I feel like we're being challenged to do right now, and what I'd like to recommend we do, is to truly quarantine ourselves from that big psychic network that's going on right now. There's a lot of illusion, there's a lot of conspiracy theories, and I'd like for us to connect on the inner planes, centering ourselves in calm and peace, and above all, faith. There is a plan and a purpose to what's going on right now, and I think a part of it is, as we are not allowed to go out and mix with others on the physical plane, that we reach out and connect with others on the inner plane. This will allow us to begin to build the muscle of the mind through a process called meditation, and develop better emotional intelligence, better emotional balance, and better emotional and mental resilience. And so, as we connect to our inner plane experiences, we can begin to connect at a deeper level and walk the path of the masters, the path that the mystery school traditions refer to as the path of initiation. This is the archetypal journey that each soul takes, and the journey that Jesus, as the Christ, so beautifully imprinted into the earth plane, into the very ethers, so that all of us, all of humanity, can also journey from our own experiences of from Bethlehem to Calvary, so that we too will realize our fullest potentials. A shift into higher levels of consciousness is another way to think of the path of initiation. As we begin to experience our own hero's journey, I believe the gospel story is the presentation to humanity in symbolic form of the esoteric path of initiation. And so we experience initiation in the highest stages of the inner or subjective world, or subjective planes of consciousness. I'd like to give a quote by William Meader. To understand initiation, we must first consider the nature of the soul's incarnational predicament. When incarnate, it is wrapped in 3 layers of substance, loosely referred to as the mental, emotional, and physical bodies. These bodies are really vehicles that the soul seeks to utilize in order to interact with the outer world. And so as this interaction takes place, we step into each phase of initiation as a soul as we travel towards that wonderful realization of ascension into our light bodies. So let's briefly look at each of these 5 initiations. The first initiation is called the birth. It is the birth of the Christ within the heart. It's the result of the birth of the Christ consciousness in what's been called the cave of the heart. And aspirants who have undergone this experience will have oriented themselves to spiritual life. What does that mean? We begin to realize that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And it's the result of the birth of this Christ consciousness in our heart chakra. And we begin to orient ourselves towards a spiritual life. This doesn't necessarily mean a religious life, but we begin to realize that all of life is about being spiritual. We look at the idea of selfless love, which is also part of the Christ principle. It's a general rightness of conduct. We want to begin to do the right thing, not for our own selfish means, but for the good of the all, for the good of the whole. We begin to see things that are happening, just like this COVID-19. We are beginning to see that there is a spiritual plan and purpose to everything that's happening in the 3rd dimensional world. Again, I'm going to refer to William Meader. In addition, this initiation, the first initiation, the birth, indicates that the soul has gained relative mastery over the appetites of the physical body. As such, the cravings of the body no longer hold control over consciousness. At this stage of spiritual development, the soul is a recognized fact and can be accessed with relative ease. I feel, these are my words now, I feel many of us are experiencing this initiation right now as we continue to heal our bodies through the right use of food, exercise, as well as honoring the planet through the right use of resources. And I think we're certainly being challenged to look at that during this time of the global pandemic. Instead of hoarding, we are learning to share. I've seen so many beautiful examples of this in my own community. And so I'd like to offer you to pull back a little bit and look at the big picture of what this pandemic is offering us. And that is to truly be one with all of our neighbors, not only locally, but globally. The second initiation has been referred to on these initiatory path of the Master Jesus as the baptism in Jordan. Baptism is about cleansing our emotions. It's one of the water mysteries, and cleansing the astral body, which so many people are experiencing right now as conspiracy theories and the emotional anger that people are beginning to express, and this us versus them mentality that is no longer appropriate. This initiation is actually said to be the most difficult of all the initiations. Fundamentally, it represents the triumph of our soul over the emotional nature of our personalities. And I think we can see today, as I was saying, that so many people are being swayed emotionally through these conspiracy theories. Don't let yourself be governed by fear. I think this is also because it's so powerful in our experience, in our psyche, that this is an indication that a great change is about to take place. And so many people are talking about the fact that we're just not going to be the same on the other side of this pandemic. And I really hope that's the truth, because what we're experiencing here is an opportunity to really outpicture what unconditional love is about. And love's not about stuff. Love's not about how much toilet paper you have and what you're experiencing with hoarding. Love is about going through life with open palm, not like this and holding on to materiality, but like this, and allowing yourself to give and to receive in this time. So I offer you that because I believe that we are being challenged to live as all the great masters have taught us to live, in the heart, the thinketh in the heart. I think this is accomplished through the use of the illumined mind. It's the mind and its capacity to observe emotion, not to buy into it, but to be the observer, saying, wow, why did I react this way? Why do I feel this way? What is this that is keeping me from realizing my divinity? What am I doing that's keeping me from realizing my oneness with the all? Not surprisingly, I believe the bulk of today's spiritual community are first-degree initiates, and they are beginning to slowly work their way towards this second initiation. And this is a very small part of humanity, we are being given through this second initiation the opportunity to demonstrate emotional control, the control of the astral body. As I said, this initiation is really thought to be the most difficult. A lot of people are realizing a psychic connection, but when you realize psychism in its lower chakra, which is your solar plexus, we're also being challenged to lift it up through the heart and begin to see in a higher plane of evolution into the intuitional body. And so the idea that a lot of us in the spiritual community are working on this second initiation, I also want to acknowledge that this can take many, many lifetimes. And so let me pull back here and offer you another idea. Don't look at where you're at or where anyone else is at and judge them. A lot of us in humanity are experiencing a recapitulation of the first initiation. We are struggling with eating disorders. We are struggling as we go into the second initiation with fear, anger. And so just don't, I want to give this to you as information, but not with something as a tool of judgment and criticism. So please take that as you will, as we talk about this next initiation, which is the third initiation. This has been shown to us through, again, the life of the Master Jesus, the transfiguration on a high mountain. The idea is as the transfiguration, that once the second initiation is behind us, the initiate has to learn to control his mental vehicle, the mental thought forms, if you will. Just as the fogs and the glamour of the astral plane in the second initiation and the emotional bodies have to be dissipated, so now the illusions on the mental plane or thought forms, the thoughts that are no longer serving us, the idea that you have to be a certain level of, let's say, I have to have a certain level of education or else I can't do this. I have to be a certain race in order to experience that. This is some of the illusions that happen on the mental plane. And this is what the third initiation is about, is it demonstrates the completely integrated personality. It's no longer, like I said earlier, us versus them. It's not this idea of having a thought form that separates you. It's the idea of being connected on the mental level, that we become what's called soul infused and responding now to the energy of what's called the monad, or the God of us, our highest expression of Creator God. At this stage, the law of sacrifice begins to dominate our lives. This represents a willingness to sacrifice all personality desires in support of divine will, as sensed through the soul. Because this initiation indicates the complete fusion of soul and personality, the soul now has mastery over every aspect of the lower self. Love, wisdom, and dynamic will, the attributes of the soul, now shine clearly through the personality, and a creative life of world service effectively ensued. After this third initiation, we have what's been called the fourth initiation. This is by far the most difficult, yet it also indicates a transition into the realms of indescribable joy when the challenges of the life have been overcome. When this occurs, the disciple is able to fully see an aspect of themselves lying beyond the soul. A lot of us think that being in contact and realizing ourselves as soul-infused personalities is the ultimate goal, but actually, there's many more heights to be attained after this initiation. And so one of the ideas of the crucifixion is this seeing that the spirit, the soul, comes vertically into the life of the physical plane and crosses that force of matter, which has been depicted by the equilateral cross in the wisdom teachings. And at the apex of that cross in our heart is where we truly begin to realize ourselves as this wonderful initiate that renounces the physical life as important and embraces the indwelling Christ that is now outpicturing and living in the world of matter. The other part of this initiation that I'd like to offer you is this is an idea of making sacred the life. As we release our physical life to the life of spirit, I was contemplating on the idea of this process of being reborn. And let me give you this. Whoops, I went one too far. As I was contemplating about the why of the pandemic, the thought came that those that are releasing their physical bodies during this time are also practicing the very thing that the Master Jesus came to demonstrate, and that's sacrificial service. I want you to look at, for the most part, the majority of people that are releasing their lives right now through COVID-19 are those that are either at the end of their life, towards the end of their life, or those that are experiencing physical challenges and perhaps aren't realizing their fullest potentials. So, to make sacred, to sacrifice, might be the act of releasing the body so that others can realize a lightening up of their own journey. Look at it this way. During this time of enforced staying at home, right, we're going to see a resurgence in about 9 or 10 months of new souls being incarnated on the planet. Maybe these souls are releasing a body that might not be at its peak potential, releasing from life to light, so that they will be reborn in these new baby bodies that are going to be coming forward in the next year. There's another idea too I'd like to share with you. If they're not going to be reincarnated, remember, we have choices when we're in spirit. Are we going to come back, or are we going to maybe work from the inner planes and work to uplift the energy, the vibratory frequency of the planet as we continue into this age of Aquarius, as we continue to experience an upliftment of humanity and build new forms and new ideas that can be aided from the inner planes. So there might be two groups of people that are leaving the planet right now. And remember that at a soul level, we are all one. At a soul level, when we came into this lifetime, we made agreements to help the evolution of humanity and help the evolution of the planet. So those that are releasing a dense third dimensional body into the body of spirit, they may either come back and be the next ones to lead us into the age of enlightenment through baby bodies, or they may stay on the other side for a time and help lighten up the earth as we go towards fifth dimensional reality, which we talked a little bit about in my first session. Now let's look at the idea of the fifth initiation, which is resurrection, which actually may be a part of what I was just talking about as we resurrect into a new body in the next lifetime. In many ways, this is considered the consummating initiation, it's relatively speaking. When taken, the initiate becomes a master of wisdom or lord of compassion. This stage represents perfection and liberation, and in truth is a refinement of the transformation that occurred at the fourth initiation. So here, the master becomes a masterpiece, so to speak. The way is then revealed to him, as I say here on the slide, in a totally new light, and it therefore signifies the true emergence of the initiate from the tomb of darkness of material being and the entrance into the world of reality and of spiritual being. This is the level, as I said, that where one becomes an ascended master. Those that choose to continue to work on the earthly plane of consciousness. We do have a choice at this point. Will we work with humanity and thus continue to serve humanity as evolutionary process, or will we go on and experience other levels of initiations? So this is what I believe the path of ascension is about. It's about us experiencing greater levels of truth, and that leads to progressive spiritual initiations. And as you transform fear-based patterns held within your consciousness, you're gradually going to experience the product of unconditionally loving sense of being. It's important to point out at this point as well that initiations, as all things spiritual, are not linear. There's an idea that you must recapitulate an initiation as you're taking a next initiation. So in a lot of ways, we really can't know where we're at. Are we first degree initiates? Are we beginning that first degree initiation? Are we first degree initiates beginning to experience and take the challenges that present themselves in the second initiation? As I said earlier, the idea here is not to concern yourself at what stage you're at, but to focus on putting one foot after the other and to continue to strive to be the best at who you are in the now. And so we rise together, and thus we rise. Thanks again for joining me in this little bit of time that I hope has helped you look at what we're going through in a different way. And again, I invite you to visit my website, goldenquestmysteryschool.org, and give me your thoughts, your insights, and maybe even join me on one of these future sessions. Namaste.